Hi, this is Emily Leiphart of Art from the Heart, and in this video I'll be creating a Neat and Tangled card using Chibitronics. They sent our team starter kits, and each month one of us is showcasing their innovative product in paper crafting. Their product is meant to teach electronics in a fun way, and there are so many crafting possibilities, not just in paper crafting. I'll have their link below so you can check out their website and learn more. After I made this Minecraft creeper card for the previous Neat and Tangled release, I had a lot of requests for instructions on how I made the creeper. Since my son's turning 8 in a few weeks, I thought it was the perfect time to make him a creeper birthday card and incorporate Chibitronics into it to make it interactive. I used the Pixelated Faces Dies, which coordinates with the Pixelated Sentiment stamps. I'll combine 2 of those sentiments to create a new one for this card. I used various shapes from the Pixelated Faces dies and die cut them from 3 shades of green cardstock and black cardstock. You'll want to die cut multiples of the different shapes and colors, then move them around and play with them like a puzzle before you get a combination you like best. All of the pieces are placed next to each other except the toes and the mouth. The toes only slightly overhang the edge of the legs, and the mouth overlaps a bit with the nose. After I have the general layout of the character, I use a ruler to measure its size. It's easier to adhere all the pieces together if I have a backing for it. I just trim off parts of the paper to create a more creeper-like shape and apply lots of adhesive so I can start adhering the pieces to it. Once all the pieces are on, I also have to trim off the excess around its legs and feet. Then I use glossy accents to add the toes and face. Now he's all done. Isn't he so cute? For the sentiment, I want to combine parts of 2 different sentiments to create my own that works better for the purpose of this card. I'm going to use the beginning of Have a Happy Day with the end of I Forget Your Birthday, so it reads, Have a Happy Birthday. Originally, I wanted to build You're Great with a GR8 using the journaling alpha dies, but there are no journaling numbers. I really hope that Miriam is planning to release numbers in the near future. I carefully cut apart the stamps, and since I'll stamp them with the pigment ink and clear emboss it, I use the magic powder bag to eliminate speckles caused by static. I use the creeper to help me place the sentiment, as well as to make sure both elements together are centered on the panel. In the Minecraft game, creepers shake, light up, and explode, so the stitched sunburst die works perfectly in creating that illusion, especially with the Chibitronics lights. I can't wait to see it come together, and I'm so excited for my son to get this card. Since I'm going to have 3 rays with 3 lights around the creeper, I have to make sure that they're spread out nicely. I use removable tape to hold the dies in place and run them through my Big Shot. This is one of my favorite dies ever. The rays are subtle but have a huge impact. I did hem and haw over whether to include the 3rd ray, but since it fit, I decided to include it, and I'm glad I did. I don't think the card would have looked the same with just 2 lights. On the back of that panel, I'm going to use a pencil to mark the center of the rays so I know exactly where to punch the hole for the light. I have a couple of 1/8 hole punches. If this EK Success punch doesn't reach, then I'll switch to the Crocodile, which has a longer reach. Now that all the holes are punched, I'm going to start working on the electronics for the lights on the card. I've got a second panel that's 1/8 of an inch smaller than the front panel. I don't want it showing on any of the sides when the card is assembled, so that's why I cut it slightly smaller. I use temporary adhesive to hold it in place so I can use a pencil to mark through the holes where the lights will be on the electrical current. Even though I know that the creeper will be in the center of the card, I also want to mark where the center of its body will be because that's where I want to place the button which will activate the lights. Chibitronics recommends that you cut the copper tape in half so your currents don't take up as much space on the paper, and I think this is a good idea. I'm using a folded piece of cardstock for the activation switch. This also houses the battery, so just make sure it's big enough to cover the battery and allow you to run the positive and negative current to it. I want this little pocket to stay in place, so I use score tape to secure it. The bottom, or flat part of the battery, is the positive side, so I use a pencil to mark the positive and negative parts of the path to make it easy to see when I'm creating the lines using the copper tape, and also when I install the lights along that path. First, I'll create the path for the positive side. I start where the battery will sit. As I pass the dots where the lights will highlight the center of those explosive rays, I bring the LEDs into the path to make sure that the positive and negative copper paths will connect with the positive and negative sides of the LED. If they're too far apart, then the lights won't work. I mark the exact width with a pencil as I run the copper past the lights. Chibitronics also mentions the importance of having a continuous path. If there's separation of any kind, no matter how small, then the connection will be broken. For the corners, it's better to fold the tape at a 45-degree angle and then fold it back over itself to change directions. If you rip the tape or if it tears along the way, which it did for me, just be sure there are no gaps between the pieces. Using your nail or a scoring tool to secure the connecting pieces is also a good idea. The copper tape is very easy to tear, so you can simply rip it instead of having to use scissors. The only time I really have to use scissors with it is when I'm cutting its width in half. When I pass the last of the lights, I'm done with the positive path and can end it pretty much anywhere. I use my pencil to mark where the positive path ends so I know which side is which when I install the LEDs. Next, I can start the negative path right alongside the positive one. This one will go to the other side of the battery, which also forms the switch for turning the lights on and off. When the negative path is finished, I tape down the LEDs and put the battery in place to check that the connections are all working. 2 of the lights are working, and you can tell that I'm super excited to see them working. I just have to place the top panel over the lights and see everything in action. Once you know the connections all work, you should just leave it to rest. I ended up playing with it a lot, which is a big mistake, and I'll tell you why in a bit. As you can tell, the light on the left wasn't working. I tried it elsewhere on the path, but it didn't seem to work, so I figured I got a burned out light. It ended up working on another trial path I created, but for some reason it didn't want to work on this one. I switched out the light, and now you can see all 3 of them lighting up. Now that everything's working, I can put the card together. I can't seem to stop pressing the button and activating the lights. It's just so fun. What I'm actually doing is wearing out the lights and the battery. I don't know if this is everyone's experience, but it's certainly been mine. Now I'm going to add foam tape for adhering the top panel, which covers all the fine workings of this light-up card. I really can't wait to give it to my son for his 8th birthday. He's going to be crazy excited to see this because he's the biggest Minecraft fan. His favorite character is the creeper, and he even has a creeper stuffy. It's possible that I might be even more excited about this card than he will be. I guess we'll see. Since my negative path runs dangerously close to the battery, and the battery shouldn't touch both positive and negative copper paths at the same time to avoid short-circuiting, I'm going to place foam tape along the side of the battery. What I should have done was run the negative lead up the outside of the flap and around the edge of the front cover. I hope that makes sense. I've seen some people adhere their battery to the positive lead using micro glue dots, and I tried it, but I don't like it because it raises the battery up, making it even higher, which means that you have to push down harder to turn the lights on. As it is, I have to use 2 layers of foam tape because the front panel, or the activation button, must be higher than the battery, otherwise your lights will be on the entire time. If both the negative and positive connections are touching the battery, that's what will happen. I've chosen to build a wall around the battery with foam tape so it doesn't move off the positive copper path. As you can see, I'm stacking the foam tape, and that ensures that the negative path won't touch the battery unless the button is pressed. Since there's a lot of foam taping going on, I've cut all that out of the video. The problem with me playing the button nearly gave me a heart attack, because the light stopped working once I had all the foam tape in place. I was very upset because I had to remove all the foam tape and check the connections. It turns out that nothing was wrong, but I had worn out the lights and the battery playing with the button. After I let the card sit for a while, everything started working again and stayed working after I finished putting the card together. I've turned off some of my overhead lights so you can see how bright these lights are. Aren't they fantastic? I was going to call this card done, but decided that it needed something extra. I'm going to use the 2 little hearts from the Little Bits die set that coordinates with the Bright Baubles stamp set. I'll add them to the creeper's chest, which will mark where I need to push to activate the lights. I adhere the little hearts with glossy accents, and now my card is done. I'm going to turn off all the lights to show you how it looks in complete darkness. I'm so tempted to make all my cards interactive now. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please refer to the supply links below if you're interested in any of the products I used in this video. You can also visit my blog for stills and more information about my card. Thanks so much for watching.